Coming up on Down Under EV Adventures, it's time for some new tyres on the Atto 3, and afterwards I give it a good test drive. Welcome back everyone. So I'm in my new house. So it's been a hectic last couple of weeks moving here. Now as you can see here, I have got a solar system at our new property. So before we get into the tyres, I'll just share, as you can see there's 22 panels with 185 watts each panel, producing just 4 kilowatts. So it's actually a smaller system than the one that I had at my old house. Now the reason is because this was done 14 years ago. So I am going to upgrade and I am going to get a new system. Now I'm going to do an episode on that later on, but just briefly, if you're thinking about getting a solar system, well, it's never been cheaper. So this system here was done way back in 2011, so nearly 14 years ago, and believe it or not, it cost $20,000 for those 22 panels. Now if you just contrast that with the house that I've just come from, so I put this in about 5 years ago. It's a 5.6 kilowatt system, so I've got 16 panels, but they're much increased wattage, 350 watt panels, producing those 5.6 kilowatts, and they only cost me $5,500 to do 5 years ago. Now the new system that I'm putting on my house, I'll bring up a little picture of it here. So that's the proposed new panel configuration. So they're going to be facing more than one direction. Currently they're just mainly facing an easterly direction, sort of northeast, but I'm going to have a different configuration. So they're going to put on 30 panels and they're going to be 440 watts, producing 13.2 kilowatts, so more than double the house I've just come from, and it's only going to cost me $8,500, so only $3,000 more than the system which I've just come from. Now we've also decided to dip our toes in the water and go for a battery as well. So we're going to have just a 10 kilowatt battery, and the reason we're doing that is so if there's a power cut, we will still have power inside the house without having to use the V2L from the cars, and also we'll be able to store power obviously and then use it overnight. And finally we're going to have another car charger installed at the front of the house. So the cost all up is going to be around about $20,000. Now here's my other charger which we moved from my old house. It's now in the shed because at the moment I'm parking at the rear of the property, and yes, I'm doing my car charging there at the rear of the house, so that's why we're going for a charger at the front as well. Anyway, let's move on to the tyres, because like I said, I'll do an episode about the solar later. So it's the Januaru Rosso tyres. Now they're from the Pirelli company. Now before we get into the new tyres, here's a look at the old ones, the Michelin. Now the Michelins wore down quite quickly at the front. Normally I rotate them and put them on the back and put the back ones on the front to last, but gee, they wore down quickly, and also I didn't particularly like the tyres in the end. I didn't think they were that great. I felt that they were wearing too quickly. They were still getting a lot of wheel spin, and I don't know if it's because I tow a lot and there's a bit more harsher braking, a bit more torque with the weight of the trailer, that might have contributed to the wear. But anyway, I went to my favourite tyre place in Kalgoorlie and I got the new tyres fitted. So I did this a couple of days ago and I've been driving around with them since. So as I mentioned, they're a Pirelli tyre, which if you don't know much about, well, they're an Italian company, and my brother's had a few Pirelli tyres on his cars and he's always spoke highly of them. Now this is a brand new tyre which has been developed by Pirelli specifically for EVs. Now while I was there, I also had a wheel alignment done, and I'm always amazed at how much the wheels get out of line. They always seem to be at least a few millimeters out. Now the cost of the tyres, as you can see, they're $1,336. That's just for the tyres themselves, and they're actually a bit cheaper than the Michelins which I had on and which I had done, I don't know, about 14 months ago. So yeah, I was pretty impressed by that. So they're called Cinturato Rosso. I think I've pronounced that correctly. If I pronounce it wrong, hey, I'm not an Italian speaker. Now before we go into Join Me in Real Time, we'll just have a look at the tread pattern on it. Now you can see it's quite similar to the Michelins that I've just come from. So here's the Michelins here, so they've got those 4 big grooves, but you can see the actual rain grooves on the side are quite a good deal thinner, and also the grooves on the main part are also slightly different. So you can see that those side grooves are a lot bigger here. I don't know whether they'll perform better in the wet. Supposedly these are designed to perform very well in the wet as well. And then you've got the thin grooves which intersect with the larger ones. They look a slightly different pattern as well. So yeah, let's join me in real time as I've just come back from getting the tyres fitted and I've just done a short drive. So I've just got home and I have to say first impressions are, what a fantastic tyre so far. So I'll take it for a bit of a longer drive out of town, film that later today, but anyway you can see there's the name of it, Cinturato Rosso, which to me sounds a bit like a Italian motorbike rider. I'm thinking of Valentino Rossi, of course. Anyway, it's got a great tread pattern, and I bought these mainly because my brother said he's never had a bad Pirelli tyre. So these are a new EV tyre that Pirelli have brought out. So I've stuck with the 215, 55 R18s. I haven't gone for the rider tread, but I have to say so far they are way better than the Michelins. But that's just first impressions. I'll take it for a bit of a drive out of town and see, but there you can see the tread patterns a little bit different to the Michelins that I've just come from, but I have to say I think they're going to work out pretty well. So I did a couple of just quick accelerations and there was just no wheel spin in the dry, so I don't know, but so far I'm very happy. So here I am in my favourite deserted road about 10 kilometres out of town, and I might even just do a little 0 to 100 just as a bit of fun and see if there's any difference, even though they're new tyres, and yeah, I don't know if they need wearing in, but hey, I'll give it a go. Okay, so today I'm gonna go off my GPS in sport mode, of course, for the most rapid acceleration. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And silly me, I cut away from the filming way too quick, and I also didn't really accelerate that well there. That was the first test. I've got no idea if I cut the camera off in time, but I'm going to go away and work that out and time it. Now we're going to do a second test. Now this time just to give me a rough idea. Now I didn't notice any wheel spin that time. If you remember when I did the test with the Michelins, I did have a bit of wheel spin, so anyway, it's going to be interesting to see. This time I'm really going to floor it. I think I was a bit ginger there when I took it off, so this time I'm really going to floor it. So I've got auto hold on, so now my foot is just over the accelerator, and go. Okay, so no wheel spin that I can really detect, so that's good. And we hit it. Okay, totally unscientific test. So both tests were around that 10 and a half second. Not really a lot of difference between this one and the other tests I did. But yeah, like I said, very unscientific. I didn't even do the test both ways. However, two things I would say is there was definitely less wheel spin, or hardly any wheel spin compared to the Michelins. And also it did feel a little bit more sure-footed in the straight line there, so I didn't feel like it was trying to jerk at all. which is really good. So definite difference to the Michelins that I tested. Anyway, now let's join me as we head a little bit off-road and try the tyres out on some other surfaces. Now just before I go home, there's a little track which I go down here sometimes go down here for a walk or to look at the trains, and it's a mixture of gravel, bitumen and dirt. So yeah, I'm just gonna have a drive down here and see what the tyres feel like. It's very dry here now, not much rain at the moment, obviously because we're right in the middle of summer. So one of my subscribers was asking me what's a good tyre if you plan on doing some off-road stuff with the Atto. So I will go into a bit more detail, but just briefly to start with, I would say that obviously I should put a bit of a disclaimer on it, and that is that the Atto 3 is not really designed to do much off-roading. It's useful if you want to go down some dirt tracks and some gravel, simply because it has got a little bit of ground clearance, a lot more than a sedan. But I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a sec. Let's go outside and just have a look at the tyres. You can see the tyres have got a nice bit of red dust on them, so well and truly christened the tyres. Tread depth feels fairly similar to the Michelins when I first got it. I think perhaps a tad more. It's a bit deceptive, but it's actually a little bit deeper, I think, than the Michelins. Tread pattern is reasonably similar. You've got these grooves down the side, which I believe are for dispersing the water in the wet. And these tyres come highly recommended for the wet as well. Yeah, that's basically what they look like. And so far it's handling really good. So I might come back and do another episode once I've done a few thousand Ks in them. See how they go. I haven't tried towing the trailer with it yet. So that'll be my next thing. I'm gonna go home, put the trailer on and drive it around town for the next few days and see what it's like, and I'll probably come back and keep you updated. But what we'll do now is I'll probably go and do the voiceover and explain a little bit more about doing off-roading with the Atto 3. Here I am out in the middle of the bush, and provided it's not too muddy, the Atto does pretty well as long as the surface is fairly hard. So I'll go into a bit more detail about that right now. Okay, so just finish off very quickly. These images here are from episode 55, so you can go back and have a look at that if you want. Now this was a variety of surfaces that I did on this particular trip, and the Atto performed excellently. Now of course it wasn't muddy and it wasn't wet. Now you can hop online and see that people have used the Atto on snow as well, but I probably wouldn't want to use it too much if it's very muddy, and I probably wouldn't want to take it on a beach either where it's very sort of sandy. But provided the surface is, reasonably firm, and obviously you want to check that it's not too uneven with the low ground clearance, you should be able to tackle most surfaces with the car. So you go back and have a look at the episode anyway, and you'll get a better idea of this trip that I did. Now I don't know anyone who's ever put all-terrain tyres on an Atto. I suppose you could, and I don't know whether that would help you very much more, being only a two-wheel drive, perhaps it would. But certainly these were the Michelin tyres I used on this particular trip here, and I think using the newer tyres I reckon I'd probably do a little bit better still. Alright, anyway, that wraps up today's episode about my new tyres and also about my new solar system, which later on when we get closer to the date, I can perhaps give you some more information if you're thinking of putting solar on, especially if you live in Australia. Alright, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone's well out there. Happy New Year, and we'll see you very soon. And as usual, be careful on those roads. Alright then, bye for now.